Chapter 17. A warped bubble of ambient time energy tore open a hole in the middle of Torchwood. Electricity crackled, depositing an antique Aegean grandfather clock, a beautiful time agent in black leather, the wayward Time Lord in the blue suit, and Captain Jack. The rift tear from 2667 Vrem to 2009 Earth was a horrendous trip, especially with a time capsule which was, for all intents and purposes, unconscious. When Purge had landed on solid Earth in the underground Torchwood bunker, the machine promptly tilted over and landed on her side. The temporal transit sphere flashed with white energy, then imploded. "Your TARDIS isn't doing so good," Captain Jack observed. He shot Saber a look, intending to get her away from the stranger in the cobalt suit. She nodded, following him to a bank of monitors on the far side of the room. Mr. Blue was patting the side of the time machine, which looked as if he had literally decided to take a nap. Mr. Blue was patting the side of the time machine, which looked as if it had literally decided to take a nap. Captain Jack gently put a hand on her arm, smiling warmly as he looked over at Traveler. The oblivious Time Lord smiled and waved like a complete goon. "So, who is that really, Saber? Because it sure as the hell is not the Doctor," Captain Jack demanded through gritted teeth and a fake smile. Saber, legitimately surprised, started to ask, "How did you—" "Look, honey, I've dealt with Time Lords that aren't the Doctor, even been shot to death by one, and I refuse to trust any of them except him. It always ends badly. I know the Doctor, and that—" Captain Jack observed Mr. Blue slapping himself on the forehead. "That is not the last great Time Lord." Saber tightened her ponytail. The time agent sighed as she watched Mr. Blue yell obscenities at his watch. "Not even great Time Lord," Captain Jack said. They observed Mr. Blue attempt to play patty cake with Purge. The time capsule did not play back. Mr. Blue was left standing there, gently slapping the grandfather clock on the side. He seemed very entertained by this. Captain Jack could not divine why, shaking his head. "Is he even a Time Lord?" "That's a long story, Harkness. Suffice to say, the short answer is yes and no." He nodded. "Saber, I trust you. I just don't trust many people, so I'm trusting that you know what you're doing. Bringing this—" Mr. Blue was jumping up and down in front of Purge, asking the unconscious machine about aerobics. Visitor, I'll call him, here in Torchwood. The other side of the coin is, I need to know how long you're planning on being here." Saber typed on her psychic glass. "Well, this conveyance is a Type 99X Gallifreyan High Lord time capsule." "TM?" Jack smiled. "Yes, copyright and so forth. We are sitting on an epsilon-level natural temporal phenomenon." "Just call it the Rift, Saber. It's a lot less confusing." "I'm guessing 2 days? 3 at most," she concluded. "Excellent. We can grab some dinner." The captain melted her with his smile, then dourly regarded Mr. Blue. "And let your wayward companion recharge his clock." Saber stared over at Mr. Blue, thinking about how very helpless and eccentric and earnest the new Time Lord was. Ugh. She was truly beginning to resent Black, Traveler's 5th incarnation. He hadn't told Saber what a pain in the ass his second self was, how unpredictable, how intense, how annoyingly curious about every little thing. Captain Jack waved his hand in front of her gently. "Did you hear my proposal? A little Italian dinner? A little walk on the pier? A little moonlight?" The time agent smiled. It was a gorgeous, albeit exhausted smile. "You know, actually that sounds great, Jack. But I think I need to take my Time Lord for a walk before he makes a mess." Captain Jack looked at the stranded Time Lord. He is potty trained, right? Saber rolled her eyes. Kidding, okay? I'll drop you both in the system. 3-day access. But you owe me one. No, you owed me one. This is you paying me back. Fine. Rain check on the dinner. The rest of Torchwood are investigating some kids behaving weird. I'm gonna go check it out. Weird how? Captain Jack put on his vintage coat. I don't have the details yet. But from what I understand, it looks like all the children in the UK are under some kind of spell or mass hypnosis or something. Weird. Yeah, weird. Is that where the rest of the Torchwood team are at? You got it. Captain Jack checked his sidearm, placed it in its holster. So I'd better rendezvous with them anyway. Dinner another time, Saber. He activated his vortex manipulator and abruptly vanished. Saber sighed. She looked up at the ceiling and rubbed her neck. She breathed in heavy again, realizing she was more tired than she thought she was. One of the lesser hazards of bumming around with the novice Time Lord. The time agent turned to check on Mr. Blue. His face was an inch from hers. 7 hells! She shrieked, taken off guard, almost stumbling backwards. As trained and observant as Saber was, the time agent was still well aware that a Time Lord, even looking human and unassuming, was always so very, very much more than human. Wide, bizarre, shockingly bright cerulean marbles stared at her from the Time Lord's eye sockets. Let's go investigate the local flora and fauna, shall we? I've never been to Cardiff. Mr. Blue bounded toward the thick steel vault door which served as the entrance to Torchwood. Saber watched Mr. Blue zap the door with a sapphire pulse from his time watch. She rubbed her forehead, a trace of a smile on her lips, as he bounded off. Outside, the Time Lord stood in a heroic pose, staring up at the evening sky. A thundercloud lay on the horizon, out at the sea. His eyes were almost neon, his trench coat fluttering, his hands in his pockets. Why does Purge look like a grandfather clock? The time agent asked, trying to catch him off guard. I had no idea, love. I landed in 1767 France while I was regenerating. Purge took the form of what was the most innocuous in the room, to blend in. Chameleon circuit? Yes, if you like. So she became a grandfather clock. Thing is, I'm pretty sure the temporal flux is created by Jade and her nemesis Valentine, the paradox sorcerer. Forced her to remain in that form. Got it, Saber concluded. The Time Lord nodded as he listened to the storm roll in. She had a problem, becoming stuck in a form of a Roman pillar for some reason. Jade and the wrathful angels overloaded her with excess temporal energy and... I don't know. Saber checked her vortex manipulator, which buzzed violently. She didn't notice Mr. Blue as he vanished in the distance, walking rather fast. Or maybe Purge just likes being a clock. Hell, I really have no clue. She's got a mind of her own. The Time Lord disappeared down an alleyway and between two business fronts in the Main Street Fair. The boardwalk was basically empty, but still, where the hell was he going in such a hurry? Saber noted extremely strange readings, unfamiliar readings, as she followed him. She turned the corner to see a young man, badly hurt and bleeding, laying on the cold concrete. What happened? Mr. Blue didn't acknowledge her question, as he was staring at the readings from his alien timepiece, eyebrows raised in an incredible surprise. What's going on? Who hurt this young man? No answer. The Time Lord turned toward the exit, absorbed in his calculations. Saber knelt to look over the hurt, unconscious, and bloodied teenager. She took several medical scans with the psychic glass. Her readings indicated massive internal hemorrhaging, severe broken bones, and a concussion. The beautiful yet deadly time agent stood, leering at Mr. Blue, who appeared completely unmoved. You're not going to help? She uttered with disapproval rather than asking. Rain was a guarantee, as thunder crackled in the far distance. The Time Lord popped the collars on his cobalt trench coat as he left the alley. "I don't know what the hell you expect from me, Saber. I'm not a doctor."